This is a combination course of MCS 303 and 304, Commissioner Life-Saving 1 and 2. We've combined the principles and to really address how a commissioner is in many ways, a lifesaver. And so let's just get started. What is commissioner life-saving? In many ways, we're kind of like a paramedic, and we can create and form a team to support unit leaders, anywhere from the COR all the way down to the basic unit leader, and doing many other things. And so some of the urgent cases that we may come up against are just a loss of adult leadership, no program at all, conflict between different leaders, and then just conflict with the chartered organization. One of the things that we can do as a good commissioner is to ask questions. And so one of those is, what do we observe? As we show up, that's one of the first things that I know I like to do, is to go make observations, find out what's going on just by watching, look at interactions. And then, this second question, what are the vital signs? How are the boys interacting? Is it a boy-run program? Is it an adult-run program? Are they having, flag ceremonies? Are they in uniform? How are the committee meetings going? A whole list of things we could be asking, but those are some of the best things that I've seen, is just observing and then asking questions. There are some, what in this course we might call hurry cases, where, in a real life situation where someone has stopped breathing, the lifeblood in many ways of a unit is just having a unit, period. And then if there are leaders there, are there two leaders there? Is there too deep leadership? We might compare a heartbeat to no leader. They're at the heart of the program, and obviously the boys are really at the heart. But is there adult leadership, and then are they empowering the boys to be the leaders? Is there a committee chair? Scoutmasters get burned out very quickly if there is no committee, if they're having to do everything. And quite frankly, that happens all too often. And the scout leaders just get burned out too quickly. Is there someone that can be appointed on a temporary basis, like a parent? You might discuss that with the COR to find out if there is someone who can be appointed. And so that relationship with a chartered organization rep, the COR, is going to be crucial. That's one of the first visits that I like to have, to find out, what his vision for the units is, and find out what he wants to accomplish. Quite often, whenever I've asked that question, what is your vision for this particular unit? I don't get a good answer, or I don't have one. They haven't thought about it in most instances. And so it's a good question to ask, because it's their unit and they're entitled to that vision, to know what God would have the leadership do with those boys. And then, is there training involved? Have the leaders, if there are leaders, have they been trained? Those are all crucial pieces. And so as we find out those types of things, what kind of training has been received, those are typical things that you want to find out in a hurry, because that will get them off on the right foot more commonly. Other hurry cases include, again, using the metaphor or the analogy of a human being. If they're choking, I've already mentioned that scoutmasters typically die out, or they might be choked out, because they're having to do everything. They're planning the tour permits, they're planning the food, they're taking care of the equipment. There's no committee that will help support them, so that as a scoutmaster or a varsity leader or a venturing leader, they're not able to minister to the needs of the boys, but they're doing more administration, or what I like to call administrivia. And so again, that relationship with the COR is crucial to make sure that there is a functioning committee. I am working with a a unit right now, and we've just started meeting with the committee and we've added to the committee, and we're just now functioning. And it's made a huge difference. It's relieved some of the burdens on the unit leaders, just knowing that we're meeting. We haven't gotten as much accomplished yet, but we're on the right track, which is great. There's progress. And getting parents involved has been key, and we've got a couple parents involved, and we're working on more. So if someone is severely bleeding, it means there's no new blood, so to speak. We need new blood when there's severe bleeding. And so what are the boys doing to recruit new boys? If it's part of a religiously affiliated unit, are the boys reaching out to those who are not of their faith? That's an important aspect. It's about inclusion. And so that's a good question that I like to ask is, what is your plan, or what are your boys doing to reach out to those who are not affiliated with your religion, or those who are not attending your Sabbath day meetings? Are you what have you had your annual program planning meeting? And so, again, and then it goes back to, is there enough leadership to support the number of boys? And again, parents are key to, if you need more adult leadership, get the parents involved. And finally, poisoning. When we're poisoned, it's important that we understand our role. If you can prevent the poisoning, that's great. And so quite often, we as an outside observer, we can potentially observe problems before they may happen. And so we may serve as that preventative medicine by asking certain questions that we're observing that could prevent problems, or we could mediate existing problems before they become too problematic. But in reality, it is not our unit as a commissioner. That's why that relationship with the COR, with the unit leaders, is vitally important. We're there to facilitate and mediate and empower, and not take over. Disorientation. Quite often, when we're disoriented physically or mentally or emotionally or whatever the case may be, that could be compared to a lack of training for leaders. So one of the first things that I like to do, again, working with the committee, someone who should be in charge of training and making sure that new leaders are trained. Fast Start is a great way. That's online. They can do that very quickly. And then getting them to the other aspects of training. In fact, walking them through to create an online account, and then making sure that they have done all the online training that they can, which is usually easily accessible. And then in addition, any of the other overnight camping skills training and others that may be required for different unit-specific leadership positions. And so again, our role is to help facilitate that training, and usually your council can provide that training, or sometimes the district. And then if those needs aren't met, then sometimes sub-districts can get together and provide training as well. And so your role is to facilitate and connect new leaders, or even not so new leaders, with those training opportunities. And so you might ask yourself, well, when do I act, and what are my priorities? Well, you as a unit commissioner should have and report to an assistant district commissioner who should counsel together with all of the other unit commissioners to discuss needs and goals. The assistant district commissioners, typically in an LDS setting, that is a member of the High Council that works with the young men, and a member of the High Council that works with the primary, as well as the member of the stake presidency that works with the young men in primary. those typically are assistant district commissioners. The district commissioner is one of the key three, and that individual works with and meets typically with the ADCs at roundtable or in other settings to provide training. And then there's also the district executive that can be there to support. And so those are your resources immediately to support you as a unit commissioner. Or if you're an assistant district commissioner, you can see the line of authority and opportunity for training. So there are 6 basic questions that you might want to consider in terms of creating an action plan. 1, what problems do you see? What are you observing? And you might want to go seek clarification. What you're observing may be taken a little bit out of context. And so making sure that we don't make assumptions is important. So asking the unit leaders or the COR or both what you're seeing, and to seek clarification. I just saw this. Help me understand what's going on here, type of thing. And then are there alternative ways of doing what's going on? And then really asking the leaders, what do you think is the solution? Again, because they know the boys best, they know the parents best, they know the situation best. I have found that trying to ask them questions can be helpful. Who needs to be involved? How can I be a support as a commissioner? How can the COR be helpful? How can the institutional head, or in the LDS setting, the bishop, be helpful? Who needs to be involved? What parents need to be involved? How do we strengthen the committee? Who needs to be involved in the committee? And then how will you know as a commissioner if the unit is saved? Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Journey to Excellence, but those are good standards by which we can measure unit health. But even showing up and seeing progress is really the key. To know that if a unit leader sets a goal and you've facilitated that, and to be able to say, hey, can I check up and follow up with you next time to see how you feel you're doing with this goal? How can I help you with that goal? And then knowing that there's progress, while you may not quote unquote save a unit, you may see progress towards being saved. And then always having a plan B is important. If a great scoutmaster is going to be okay with a young man failing, so to speak, with an activity or an assignment, or if someone doesn't show up. Again, using questions can be very instructive to say, okay, what happened, with this activity? What do you think we should do, or what do you think needs to be done to help the situation? Asking great questions can be a great way to empower others to solve their own problems. And the big thing is, quite often, unit leaders see commissioners as spies, or thinking that they're going to come in and tell them what they need to do differently because everything's wrong. We all typically know what we're doing wrong or where we could improve, and so asking the questions and being able to have a relationship so that you can ask questions is important. So having authentic enthusiasm is important, and knowing that you care. And we all can talk about that in our discussion. How do you establish a relationship and demonstrate that you care? And how do you help them catch the vision and even share your own vision, either from your experience or from what you've learned, or both? In reality, when leaders are struggling, they often lose hope. And so we can be a source of inspiration and strength to them as commissioners. There are a lot of resources, manuals, and trainings for us as commissioners, and those are important. But really, now let's take some time and discuss what has helped you in your role to save units.